Hello again, my name is Jeannie Chambers, and I'm going to be reading to you again today from Tunnel of Time. Today I'll be reading Chapter 2. If you didn't get to listen to Chapter 1, hit the subscribe button down below and go back and listen to it. I'll be adding more of these as it goes. Okay, the Chapter 2 is Let the Show Begin. It would be hard to hear anything now because the tilt-a-whirl next to the Tunnel of Time was in full swing, and the cries of terror mixed with squeals of joy drowned out everything else. Maybe Gracie would get to ride the tilt-a-twirl this year if her parents would let her. Mama's excuse last year had been that she was too light, and she was afraid she might fly right out of the huge shell-shaped bucket. She watched as the buckets of people sloshed up and down and around like boiling water in a teapot. Not only did the floor of the ride sway up and down, the individual buckets had a steering wheel in the middle so the occupants could turn to make their bucket twirl around and around. Gracie had seen some people not even be able to walk as they made their way from the ride to the wood chips of the midway floor. I bet I could. The tilt-a-whirl is the first place I'm headed after the Tunnel of Time. Next, the fake engineer called out to the three of them. They each handed the wrinkled old round man the 10 tickets needed for the ride, then settled themselves into the seats of the car that would be their home for the next 30 minutes. The engineer wore blue and white striped overalls with a red bandana around his neck. His cap matched his clothes, and he had white hair that spilled out over his collar, which seemed to connect to his mustache and beard. As he moved around, he left the faint scent of diesel, like the smell of riding behind a school bus. Reba Dee did not take her eyes off the man as he checked their seat belts to make sure they were tight. He was having a hard time with Reba Dee's because her backpack was now sitting beside her like another passenger. He said, "Don't you unbuckle these until the ride is over." Then out of Reba Dee's mouth came one of her observations in the form of a question. "Are you Santa Claus?" It was as if it were so much air inside the engineer the only way for it to escape was to hold his head back while his belly pushed up the air and out into a laugh. His belly sure shook like Santa, but Lizzie patted Reba Dee's hand while giving the man an eye roll as she said, "Of course not, Reba Dee. This is the man that's going to be driving our train." Gracie took that opportunity to ask the man, "Hey, sir, is there anything going on with the Tunnel of Time? Why was the curtain closed for so long?" Mr. Engineer's smile stopped as fast as it started. He shook his head but made no eye contact while answering as he checked their seatbelts. "No, ma'am, there ain't nothing wrong with this ride. They were just checking and double-checking all the mechanicals, that's all. But y'all just sit tight while I make sure the rest is buckled in and checked, then we'll be on our way. Have you ever been on this ride before?" he asked, the last part in a loud voice as he took a few steps to the next car of people in their section. "Yeah, me and my sister have," pointing to Lizzie and then Reba Dee. But this is her first time. Gracie thought his laughter and voice sounded familiar, but only for a second. "Well, y'all are in for a treat then, because they've added another stop this year," he said as he lifted a foot to rest on the connector between their car and the next one. He rocked it back and forth, checking the connection. Just before he moved on to the next car, he patted their car as if to signify it's ready to go. Gracie watched him repeat the same routine over and over. All three girls grinned at each other. Even Lizzie couldn't hold back her excitement at the news as she said, "Neat! I can't wait to see who the new person will be. I wish they'd have 10 new stops." The girls had been placed in the last of 5 cars. Each section would stop in front of a scene as it came to life with automatrons telling the onlookers about the period in time. Each scene lasted about 2 to 5 minutes, and there were usually about 8 stops. Gracie watched as the engineer tapped the car in front of them, and then he looked back towards their car and gave her a slight nod with a quick but forced smile. He walked back towards them and stopped at his post by the entrance. He craned his neck, peered over the mural, gave a thumbs-up sign. Gracie was having a hard time hiding her smile. After all, she had a reputation to keep up, and a 12-year-old shouldn't like the Tunnel of Time as much as she did, should she? She and Lizzie had gone on this ride at the county fair together for years, and their mama and daddy figured Reba Dee was now old enough to go, provided she had a sister on each side. It wasn't that the Tunnel of Time was a scary ride, and it wasn't that fast either. It was just that Mr. and Miss Hitt were a tad bit overprotective when it came to their children. And this ride, if you could call it that, took about 30 minutes from start to finish, and that's about 25 more minutes than the Hitts ever spent apart. Or so it seemed to Gracie. We'll have enough time together tomorrow when we leave for the mountains for the Hitt family reunion. Lizzie twisted and turned in her seat, trying to get comfortable. Reba Dee, what in the world do you have in your backpack today? I can't believe you carry that thing around all the time. What's in here? Lizzie started to unzip the Curious George backpack. Stop! That's my stuff. Leave it alone, Reba Dee screeched. As usual, Gracie intervened her sister's argument. Lizzie, stop messing with her. You know she don't like nobody to mess with her beloved backpack. Gracie had helped her Aunt Melanie pick out the twofer backpack for Reba Dee's 7th birthday. It was both a backpack and a stuffed animal. When she wore it, it looked like she was carrying a monkey on her back. Lizzie had slid herself in the corner of the car, and even though there was a good 6 to 7 inches between her and Reba Dee, she acted as if she would get infected with a disease if the goofy-looking monkey touched her legs. I'm just saying, Mama shouldn't ought to let her carry it everywhere. It's ridiculous, and it's embarrassing. She looks like Little House on the Prairie just escaped from the zoo. Reba Dee had carried things around with her as soon as she was able to walk. She was a collector. Their daddy joked that Reba Dee, being the third child, would collect things to make sure she got something of her own. Just about all of Reba Dee's clothes, toys, and books had belonged to Gracie and then Lizzie first. Today was no exception, but Reba Dee loved the cotton black and red dress she was wearing. It was really too big for her, but she liked wearing long dresses, and this one fell mid-calf. Perfect. The dress tied him back with a long sash of the same fabric, and there were ruffles at the short puff sleeves. Her black lace-up sandals looked like bowling shoes with side cutouts. Lizzie, it's not going to kill you for her backpack to touch you. But even as Gracie had said it, she and Reba Dee were sliding over as far as their seats would allow them, in order to give Lizzie a little more drama queen room. She eyed Queen Lizzie with her denim leggings and royal purple top. Lizzie was tugging on the stretchy elbow-length sleeve of her otherwise flowing tunic shirt. Lizzie, what has gotten into you today? You're going to spoil Reba Dee's first time on this ride, and you know she's been looking forward to it. Yeah, about as much as you have, you big baby. Lizzie grinned, with that devilish grin she always had when she knew she was right. She may as well have bonked her older sister over the head with her drama queen scepter. Gracie couldn't come up with a quick enough comeback, but thank goodness she didn't have to, because the train's whistle blew and the engineer yelled from the first car, "The train is now leaving the station." Gracie pursed her lips and rocked her shoulders back and forth while giving Lizzie one of those na-na-na-na-goo-goo looks. On the inside, Gracie felt a mixture of relief and apprehension that the ride was starting. Then she replayed in her mind what she had heard. "There ain't nothing wrong with this ride," he'd said, "and y'all are in for a treat." Gracie felt her tense legs relax as her feet flattened out on the floor of their car. She hadn't noticed she'd been sitting with her heels up and her legs bouncing up and down like she had to go to the bathroom, a nervous habit she had. She wondered if Lizzie had noticed it too. The train started slow and then picked up a little steam as they processed into the darkness of the tunnel. Every year, Gracie was amazed at the detail of the tunnel. She wasn't sure if they added to it every year or if she just noticed more because she was getting older. She took the opportunity of the darkness to carefully pinch her lip gloss from the pocket of her capri jeans. She used 2 hands to make sure it wouldn't tumble to the floor. Gracie had always considered herself a little bit of a nerd on the inside until her 12th birthday when she received her first makeup kit. The 4-tiered makeup suitcase had been a gift from Aunt Melanie and had not been well received by Gracie's parents. It had taken her a while to realize you don't wear too much at a time, or else it all gets washed off. Her daddy called it war paint, and if he could see it, it was considered too much. Today she had brushed just a tiny bit of pink glimmer to her cheeks and brought along one of the lip glosses aptly named Cotton Candy Pink. She was wearing her new pink Keds and matching polo shirt. She had seen an outfit just like it in one of the displays at the mall. Nowadays, it seemed like one minute she was happy being absorbed in a science book, the next she was looking at teen magazines and dreaming about Jason Ferrone, one of the guys in the band Toonie Loons. They had only been riding a short time when it slowed and then stopped. The tunnel was so dark you couldn't see your hand in front of your face. And it felt like a refrigerator, just like the real tunnel her parents had taken them to last year on vacation. The air was thick and smelled like the dirt her dad had plowed when he started their summer garden. Reba Dee jumped when a bright light popped on, shining down on a diorama off to the right side of the train. It was a man Gracie and Lizzie recognized. Gracie interjected, "Look, Reba Dee, he's the man Daddy talks about all the time. It's the early-to-bed man." He looked so real. His skin looked soft, not plastic and hard like a mannequin would, and his clothes moved with him as he moved his body. His feet stayed planted, but he twisted, turned, bent over, and moved his arms and head. He was dressed in a sort of frilly white shirt, a brown tweed vest that looked too tight, and a jacket that matched the vest, but had big gold buttons. His hair was the only thing that looked fake, but maybe that was because they didn't usually see grown men with long hair that was so thin you could almost see through it. His mouth didn't move either, but if you didn't look at his face while he was talking, you would think you were sitting in front of the real Benjamin Franklin. He told the ride-goers he was born in Boston, Massachusetts, on January the 17th, 1706. He then read a few quotes from a book he held called Poor Richard's Almanac. He wore little half-glasses he said he invented. "I believe in today's time you call these bifocals," he had said. He told them how he had helped draft the Declaration of Independence and how important it was to think for yourself. All three sisters joined together and mouthed right along with him as he ended with, "And remember, early to bed, early to rise, makes a man healthy, wealthy, and wise." The light faded as Mr. Franklin bowed slightly, and their train started to move. Gracie never liked leaving the scenes. They seemed so real that one year she had come close to raising her hand to ask a question. She would never admit it now, and even though she knew better, she still pretended the automatons were real. Lizzie shook her head as she looked at Gracie and said, "I don't think you belong here." The train car started up again, and the lights faded. It was a complete darkness again. "What's that supposed to mean, Lizzie?" "What I mean is, I think you would rather live in these times than the times we live in now." "Don't be crazy, Lizzie." Crazy Lizzie. Has a nice ring to it, doesn't it? Reba Dee chimed in. "Crazy Lizzie, crazy Lizzie, crazy Lizzie." "Shut up," Lizzie said as she put her hand over Reba Dee's mouth. Then, "Ow! I cannot believe you just bit me." Reba Dee giggled, and then they all joined in with a short bout of laughter. Gracie whispered to Lizzie, "Did she really bite you?" "Yeah, but not bad. She didn't draw blood anyway. At least I don't think so, but it's too dark in here." Lizzie whispered back and then said loud enough for the Reba Dee to hear, "I've just been infected with monkey germs, that's all." That's the end of Chapter 2. Hurry up and let the show begin. I hope you enjoyed Chapter 2. Today's reading is dedicated to my 10 grandchildren. There is Katie Grace, Lydia, Becca, Jon-Ira, Melissa, Asa, Mason, Josiah, Janie, and Maddie. I love them all so very much, and I hope they enjoy this story too. Thank you.